Welcome to EduDay Back to School 2024. This session is about creating student workflow in class teams.
I'm going to run this session, and what I am going to do in this session is take you on a bit of a deep dive on into Classwork, which is the new feature. And what I will say before I sort of get started is that Classwork is actually not really difficult to understand and use. It's very simple to create a module, but understanding the power and the other elements of Teams to be able to have all the elements to make then a module is probably sort of the double-edged sword, is that if you don't have a good understanding of all the different elements of Teams, a class module is just going to end up with being like Word documents or PDFs or whatever, and being able to put those in order. So if you want to make it really interactive and multimodal, then knowing about what Teams has to offer is going to be beneficial. So without further ado, let's get started. Just change decks over, and I'll be switching between a live demo and my PowerPoint deck, but creating student workflow in class teams. So Microsoft Teams, it's that digital hub that brings conversations, content, assignments, and apps together in the one place. If you've been using Microsoft Teams, you know that, okay? There's so much in there now. We can even add a level to that where we can, say it enhances students' learning through the use of learning accelerators. In assignments, technically that comes in assignments, so it's covered there, but it's an opportunity for us to create collaborative environments that are so important to teach our students to work and behave in, because that's the way that they're going to be working in the future. We can personalize learning. We can also do some staff stuff in there as well. What we're going to be doing today is focusing on class teams. So we're going to be engaging learning with teams here. So if you look at this actually gives you a bit of an idea of just the depth of what Teams offers now, okay? So we do have Classwork, which is this new curricular organisation tool for educators. Obviously, assignments have been there, and assignments, as I said, are so much more than just, okay, can you hand in a draft of your Word document now? We do have a really fantastic gradebook in there. So Andrew was touching on some of the new updates where you can do custom grading schemes, and you can also do weighted grading categories. So obviously all that is reflected in the gradebook that's attached in Teams as well, okay? The great thing is the next one on the list there is insights. So Teams has its own built-in analytics or insights, and the great thing is that any data that is collated in Teams goes into the Insights tab, and it will analyze that data and present it to you in kind of like a formulated dashboard, which is really, really, really good because if you are still dealing with, raw data in Excel spreadsheets and you're trying to make visuals from that, it's pretty time consuming, although AI is pretty good now, but Teams does it all for you. So I had a question earlier about this whole concept of, Teams becoming like a learning management system and being able to have a course that you set all of your year sevens, and then at the end of the day, you can see across all of your year seven cohorts that you have, this course medium, you have, these areas that you need to improve on. Well, yes, Education Insights Premium allows you to look across different classes and across your whole organization. So technically that can now be done with Microsoft Teams. I'm not going to be going into Educational Insights Premium yet much today, but technically then that can be done. I'll show you how to set up the modules to start with. We've got our class homepage as well, which you may or may not use in addition to Classwork. And then obviously good old OneNote Class Notebook. So a lot of people use OneNote Class Notebook because it kind of was the only thing that was around a little while ago before Teams came out. So a lot of schools that Andrew and I still work with are very embedded in OneNote Class Notebook. And the big question has always been, okay, I've got all this content in my class notebook. How do I then make it work really nicely with Teams, right? So Classwork is the answer. Then, as you know, we've got things like Reflect, and we've also got channels in there. So that's a lot, right? That's a lot for your average teacher. to be able to, process and work out what it looks like. So I've developed a little session I'll do today that's going to actually talk about channels. And then how you can set those channels up. So some of you may already be doing this, but just ideas, and feel free to pop any suggestions in the chat as well. But I love to use channels for discussions as well. So the big things we're focusing on are communication and collaboration, right? So you've got an instant discussion forum in a channel in a Microsoft team anyway, right? LMSs have little modules that you can put in that's like a discussion forum. I can do that in a Teams channel. I can plug files in, and then I've got my OneNote class notebook. I've also got assignments, and I've got classwork. So let's start with channels and posts, and I'll go through this relatively quickly so that we can move on to the stuff that you probably don't know about. So here is my tenant. I have got a team here that I used, let's say it was last year, even though it's labeled 2021. And I just wanted to show you, obviously, if you're quite new to Teams, I am now calling this like the teacher dashboard. And I have seen, Andrew, I don't think you covered it in today's session because it's a nitty-gritty one, but there is an update coming where you will be able to customize this, right? So if you're not using Reflect on a regular basis, you'll be able to hide that one.
Yeah, to customize that panel by hiding the ones that you're not using yet, which is cool.
Yeah, because it is like all about cognitive load now too, right? And if I'm not using all of this stuff, it might be a bit of a headache for me. But you can see there that that's where you would access your insights. That's where you access Reflect. But we're going to be having a look at this new classwork feature that's popped up in there today as well. You can see here that I've started to put some channels into my team. Now, there's a million and one different ways that you can set up channels in your team. But for the purpose of this classwork example, I'm going to actually have a channel per unit that I'm doing, okay? Because I'm going to have in my classwork module a channel space where students can come and, do discussions or, analyze some poetry like this and put their replies in, or identify some of the mechanics of poetry that they see in this one and reply in here. And just like in sort of a learning management system, how I'd set up a discussion thread. So I'm going to structure my channels where I've got channels for every unit. There's lots of different things you can do too. So you can do group work, and you can put channels of any sort that you like into a classwork module. But for the sake of this one, I just wanted to focus on, for instance, this poetry channel here. And you can see here that I could just, and I do workshops with teachers all the time, and I think they underestimate, and I bang on about this all the time, so sorry if you've heard me say this before, but I think they underestimate the power of Teams channels as a tool for collaboration, because sometimes they're just posting stuff in there like, your assignment's due tomorrow, here's a reminder, whatever. But it's so rich to be able to do an activity like this where you just go start a new post, okay, and you say, what are some rhyming words for same, okay, post below. So maybe you're doing a quick brainstorm for something that you're doing in poetry on the fly. You can really quickly set this up. The kids go there, they click reply, and you've got like this little discussion forum here. The benefits of doing online discussions, you can probably throw some in the chat if you'd like to, but every student gets a voice. It's there if they want to refer to it again. So they might be writing their own poem and they need a rhyming word for same. So they go back to the Teams environment and they look at Teams. So just wanted to kind of like harp on the fact that you can very easily set up these posts in a Teams channel so that your students can reply. So, if we're thinking about a module that you might set up in another LMS, you could have a discussion thread and then a file and then, an assignment that they need to do. So this is your alternative to a discussion thread, okay? Obviously, we can do quizzes as well by using the Teams assignment. So super easy to do that. I'm sure that you have all created a channel. Click here, add channel here, and then put these in. Now, I know a fair few of the names on the session today, but you might have noticed at the end of my groups here, I have got little emojis at the end. Now, this might be the one thing. Remember at the beginning of the day, I said, you know, that if you take away one thing for the year, that could be good. To get your emojis in a channel name, we have a Windows shortcut. So I'm going to go add channel, and I might call this one for, what am I doing? I've done the lyrics, comparison, poetry, narrative, info report will do. It's probably more persuasive. You can tell I'm a primary teacher. So info report here. So Windows key is to the left of your toolbar. Right, Andrew, you've got to show the Windows key shortcut.
Yeah, you know, we need
stop.
that add sparkle button that I was showing that automatically adds the emojis to. Yes. That might be the next best
that
thing.
the emojis. Oh, the add sparkle. Yes, right.
That would be cool.
That would
give
be cool.
them feedback.
Yeah. So I don't know whether it's appropriate to do a snowflake, but I've just put a snowflake in there. So that shortcut was Windows key and full stop on a Windows device, and you can then add. So I was a primary school teacher. I taught all boys. It was all about visual learning. So that was just something that was drilled into me and meant that I could then add extra channels in there and make it visual. So a really little technical one, but you get the idea, right? So the first thing that I'm doing is setting up a channel for my unit to take place in, and I can then obviously for something like this narrative one, I'll go into my poetry one. I can then use the file library that's attached here. Now, I haven't got anything in this one at the moment because in a channel like this that's subsequent to the general channel, as you know, everything in this folder, if I put it in as an Office doc, it's going to be collaborative. So I'm pretty sure most of you will know that by now. If you don't, so if I did upload, say, a file here, and I wanted to put in my intro to poetry unit here as a PowerPoint, that's going to be editable to the students if I pop that in there. I could PDF it and put it in there. So a little shortcut that I'm going to do is I'm going to use the general channel in files, and I'm just going to put anything that I really want to share with my students that's read only in this class materials folder. It doesn't really matter where it is because Classwork allows you to kind of sequence this. And already you're probably sitting there going, Amanda, I'm lost already. I've never used Teams before. You're all over the place. If I was a student, I've already gone to a channel. I've gone to a file library. What? So the whole idea of Classwork is to reduce that cognitive load and be able to sequence everything. So hold up, this will make sense in a minute when I show you Classwork. Okay, so right now I'm making you understand the features of Teams and how you can build up the elements of a module. And then I'll show you how to sequence those into a module in the Classwork feature. Okay, so I've got a file in here, Intro to Poetry 1, that I want the students to use in that unit as well. So, right, that's channels and discussions for now. That's a really simple example of how to set up a channel, how to put a discussion in there, and how to add a file. The next thing on my list, if you cast your memory back, was assignments, I think. Nope, I'm in the wrong PowerPoint there. So setting up your class team here, we were going to have, we're going to have a look at the OneNote class notebook. So if you are an avid class notebook user, then obviously I don't need to talk to you about the power of OneNote, but OneNote is amazing because you can set your class notebook up via your team here. And the reason teachers love OneNote is because of its multimodal sequential way of sequencing content for students. So you can see here that I have got an introduction here. Look at that image. I created that with generative AI in Copilot in the create the conversation style creative, and I just went create a title page for poetry showing all the topics that might be in a poem and put the word poetry in the middle. And so that pulled that out, which is pretty cool.
That's so good. And Amanda, on that point, in the updates, we said OneNote's got new bones, right?
Yes.
That includes the bones that Amanda's showing you right now. So it's faster, it's snappier. If that was a major holding contention, that it was a bit, sinking, it's slow, it does have new infrastructure around, new code to make it work a little bit more snappier. So it's worth a relook.
Yes, definitely. And this is just a couple of really simple pages I've thrown together for this example. Obviously, there's some people out there that are making amazing OneNote pages, many of them on this call. But then, like I've just got my little elements of poetry poster in here, and then a homework poem that we are then going to, get the students to ink and analyze all over when I distribute it out to their individual sections. But let's say to start with, I've got, a whole planned section of
Amanda,
work
while
goes
you're
with
doing
this poetry
that,
unit. Yeah.
Can you hit the little expand button just to give it full real estate while you're doing your demo? Look at that, it's lovely.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, so I could have a whole unit in here, obviously, with all of this information in here, as many pages as I want. And obviously the ability to reuse this from previous years is already there. So I could import this into my notebook for next year as well. But Classwork makes that even easier, okay, because it's going to bring everything across when we reuse a unit. So just showing you that OneNote is available here for you to set up, and you can, if you don't know too much about OneNote, you can pop files in like this as a printout so that they're there ready to be viewed, so the students don't have to then click on that file and open it. And then that obviously allows us to ink over these documents as well. Now I'm in the content library. What I could do is in my class notebook here is I could distribute this page out, and each student in the class would then get a copy of this poem so that they can do their own analysing as well. So we're talking about the elements of teams here. We've got discussion forums, we've got files, we've got our class notebook with our multimodal sequential lessons, and we've also got our student day pad, right? So we've got these little student sections here where the students can do work with them, work in these. And, if you are a stylus school and your teachers have access to styluses, or your students have access to styluses, this becomes the place where they can type, but they can actually ink, and they can sketch note and whatever they want in that page as well. So just a really quick rundown on OneNote Class Notebook. If you want to know more about that, we have amazing courses on the MS Learn Educator Centre. But you're seeing where I'm going with this. We've got all of these elements building up, and we want to sequence these for our students because at the moment they're everywhere around Teams, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so minimizing, going back into my Teams here. I've got my class notebook set up. Time to set some assignments. Now, in our assignments feature here, I always threaten to do it, but there is like 101 different ways that you could create an assignment in Teams, especially now with learning accelerators. But one of the simplest ways is if I just popped into this one here, is actually I have asked the students to create a draft of their poem, and I'm going to give them some feedback on that, and they're going to do this in a OneNote page. So I have actually created a assignment, and you know what, sometimes I just wish I could cross out assignments and call it tasks, especially now that we've got this classwork, because this is really a task. It's not an assignment, right? But the students know. And this is going to be their draft, and they will click on here, and the students will be able to type their draft straight into their OneNote page. And then when they go back, I will be able to mark that using the speed grader as well. Okay, so I'll show you quickly how I created assignments if you haven't used them before. Create new assignment. So we've got our poetry draft in there, but this time for their poetry, for their poem that they need to submit, I would like them to publish.
Look at this. This is where that generative AI needs to come in.
I know.
To do
publish.
it old school.
Yeah, I know, I have to type it in. And, you know, generative AI is going to save me because I can't type for the life of me. Anyone that knows me well that watches my live demos, I always make typos. Publish your poem in a Word doc and include let's say, an image created using generative AI. Let's just do that for a spin up on that assignment, right? So this is the simplest way I can attach assignment is I can leave it blank. I don't want them to do anything except turn in their Word document, right? So I can go through and I can put my due date in and my due time. It has to be handed in by 3 o'clock. I'm just going to do it to this class, but you can assign assignments to several classes, but if I reuse a class module, it will already do that for me as well. All current students, and you can actually from here select a module if I want to as well. So when I'm making an assignment, if I've already got a module set up, I can add an additional assignment to that module as well. Okay, so I won't do that now because I'm going to pretend I haven't got the module set up. All right, I'm going to do it again. And then we could add a rubric, and that generative AI feature that Andrew showed you is going to make that even better. And then we're going to assign that one. So this one's a little bit different where the students have to they'll see this and then it'll have like a little attach your work here. Okay, so 2 different types of assignments. I could actually also, when something like Speaker Coach comes in, set an assignment using PowerPoint Speaker Coach where they have to rehearse their poem because they're going to deliver it in class, you know, so just going down the theme of, can't show you that one because it's not out yet, but let's say I also want to put a quiz in here about the elements of poetry, and I can go in here and go new quiz, and then again, it'd be great if I had generative AI in here, but just quickly I say, which one isn't a element of a poem? And I'm going to say banana.
Look, that's
Run.
new. You do have some AI that's popped up in forms to give you different types of suggestions. There you go.
Yes, there is AI everywhere. So I love forms. And then this is a quiz. So obviously banana is the right answer for that. And I'm going to make that required. And I'm just going to click done now. And that's going to plug the quiz in here. Elements of poetry check-in. So let's just call it a quiz. Does anyone actually use the word quiz in Australia? Test? I don't know. I'm desensitized now because it's called quiz in so much of the media that we see, Andrew, that I just call it a quiz now, but I don't think anyone does call it a quiz in Australia. Anyway, I can put instructions in and I've got this. So I've got all these assignments now. The kids could come here. If they go out on this assignments one, they're going to see all their assignments mixed up. So it's about time now that I show you how this classwork works to bring this all together. So remember, I've got a discussion forum, a couple of assignments or tasks, a PowerPoint I want to share with them, and a section in their class notebook. So they might have been using class notebook and in their desktop and moving towards those, but in classwork here, I've already got a couple set up, and that's because I'm going to show you how these get reused as well. But let's create a new one here. So this is where you would reuse from an existing. And this is where we've got our new module here as well. So I'm going to start a new module, and I'm going to call this one Write Your Own Poem. Okay, and so then I can put my description in here. So as Andrew showed you, guess what's coming? Generative AI. I'm just going to put that in there now. And I have very limited ways to pretty it up. Now, I even actually tried to post a picture, like I just went out, you know, and found a picture on the web or even a screen clip. So if I just screen clipped this little picture here and then came over here and tried to post it in, it won't even let me post in the description, but it is definitely on the roadmap to make the classwork modules a little bit more aesthetic. Okay, so there will be options coming in the future to make these a bit nicer. But you can insert tables, etc. So you can do a little bit of fancying up in there if you wanted to. So I'm going to insert a table, lesson 1, lesson 2. But I don't know if it depends how you want to use this. It's up to you, but that functionality is there. So this is just the title of the module and the description. After I click save, you'll see that I get this little button here saying add resources or drop files here. So I can drop and drag. I've got also a plus button up here that will give me the same menu as this. And you can see here that I can add a file. I can either, upload it from the device, add it from my OneDrive, add it from a team, either the team that I'm in or any team. Okay, or I can do a new file. So I can add a new whiteboard, a new video recording, etc., etc. Then we've got assignments. So I can add from this class. So you can see it's all just interwoven now. So any team that you're an owner of, these features will pull from. Okay, so as long as you've been an owner, you could plug in an assignment that you set 3 years ago into today's classwork module. And that team isn't archived, obviously. But you can do a new assignment, a new quiz, or create from existing. So you can build before, or you can build as you go. It's completely up to you. Today I built before, okay? Because I kind of wanted to show you how, if you had all that stuff already, you could then put it all into classwork. You can put in links. Okay, so there's our link, and it makes Andrew happy because you can not make it a naked link. You can put the text to display because he hates naked links, fun fact. And then obviously you can add a link to a channel here as well. So we can start to build our unit, right? Big thing to note here, there's a publish button. Okay, until you have clicked that publish button, it's not visible to your students. So you can build all this and then you can roll it out when you want to. So there's not actually, and I talked to the team about a schedule, the product managers about a schedule to release. It's just going to sit in there, and then at this stage, you're probably going to have to go out and hit publish to send it out. There's schedule to release or schedule assignment features. So, you know, you could schedule the assignments to roll out at a later date and just have them sitting in the module, or they'll pop up in the module. But at this stage, you'll have to click publish. But there's nothing that's impossible, I don't think, for these product teams. They're pretty amazing and they listen to user requests pretty seriously. So let's build. So I can use this one. I see exactly the same thing. The first thing I wanted to put in is that channel, because that's going to be the channel, that the place that we focus most of our discussion and chit chat for our poetry unit. So I'm going to add my channel. As simple as that. There it is. So the students could now come to Classroom, click on that, and it would take them to that channel. Then I'm going to come in and I'm going to add my class notebook section or page, and I can do a new page as well. So this is great because when it first rolled out, if you haven't used it for a while, it was only page, but now it's whole section. So I can go into my class notebook here, and this will just pull from your current team's class notebook. Okay, so I'm going to attach our poetry unit section here with those sections in it, so you can see here. Now, as opposed to my students having to have Teams and OneNote open, they can just go to Classwork, click on the channel, go back to Classwork, click on the class notebook, and they're moving around the platform a lot quicker and a lot more streamlined. Okay. Next, I'm going to add in that Intro to Poetry folder. So I'm going to go into my team. The team's name is this one here. And I'm going to go into class materials, and there's my Intro to Poetry PowerPoint. Okay, so multimodal unit sequenced here. Students still have to click on the file, so that's when you could actually get anything that you wanted to show in order. Okay, in the OneNote notebook. And then if I wanted to, I could pop in a link in here. So let's do good old Ken. You can tell I'm a primary school teacher. Poetry for Kids. I think if you're not a primary school teacher and you haven't used that site, then it's probably a surprise, but I'm going to stick this one in, okay, into my team link as well, because we're going to use this one on a regular basis. Okay. And I'm going to attach that one, and you can keep going. But what I did want to show you is that now I can go in and add some assignments from this class. So I'm going to do my elements of poetry check-in. I'm going to do my poetry draft, and I actually have to do one at a time, which I would say will be something that will go on the user list very quickly, because I even expected to be able to do more than one at a time at the moment. So that one's already included in another module that I've done up here. So I'll just put the elements of poetry check-in, and I will go in and add from this class my poem there where the students have to submit it as well. So look at that. I've got this lovely sequence of materials here. If I don't like that sequence and I realize that I need to put this one up here, because that's the order that we're going to work through things. So that probably needs to go here. Can drag that one down there. So my units there, you can reorder those in any way that you want. And you can also edit the display name. Okay, so if I don't want to call this poetry 2, I can call this discussion thread. Okay, and I can save that. I can call this one poetry unit in OneNote, so you can spell it out for the kidlets, right? So they know exactly what they are going to do. I'm going to call this one intro PowerPoint, because this is terminology that your kids, and you can keep going and customize that, right? Move to a different module or remove resource as well. So really easy to use, but all of this know-how to build a good module is super important, and that's why I went through kind of from the beginning. Okay, so ready to go, and all you do is you actually hit publish. And it will say that this module and all the active resources will be made visible to students. It can't be hidden after you published, but can be edited or deleted. So just know once you publish it, you can't pull the whole thing back. You'd have to delete the whole thing or delete elements, okay? So we'll publish that, and voila, what the students would now see is exactly pretty much what I see here. It doesn't, there's no student view, but basically the students would, you can obviously rearrange modules for the students as well, but the students could click on this and they will see this sequence of work all laid out for them, which is really, really exciting. So give us a thumbs up if you have had a play with Classwork and you are loving this feature, or just give us a thumbs up if you think this is pretty cool and you're looking forward to maybe using this feature in the future to sequence some of your schoolwork. Okay, so this is great. As I said, what I want, and probably what you want, is the ability to make this a little more pretty, okay, and add some different colors. But what you can do, if this is the one that you're working on in the future, you can actually pin this module, okay, to the top. So it always stays at the top, and it always stays at the top for students when they access this. Now, I've done all this really hard work. I've set up this discussion thread, takes me out there, come back to Classwork, go into write your own poem, go into my poetry unit. Okay, look how easy this is to navigate around. Okay, close that, go into Classwork. Be good if you could make Classwork your landing page. Look at all these things I keep thinking of to tell the product team. Intro to PowerPoint, open in PowerPoint. That's going to open that up. I won't do that now because I've got my default set to that. Okay, close that, but easy to access. It's going to take me to that website or my assignment there. I'm in teacher view, so it's taking me there as a teacher, but it would take students to their student view. And then obviously the website would open up. Oops, I've got some lag. The website would then open up in oh no, it's opened up outside Teams as well. Got that set. So that's absolutely amazing. You've done all this hard work. Now, people will say, I want to use that next year. If I've got all of that, definitely. I just had a question in the chat. Would you add instructions for the sequence in lesson 1 on the table? Yeah, of course you would. You could do whatever you want. I'm just doing a really quick demo, so I didn't put in the detail, but you can make that little description as thorough and as detailed as you would like. Okay, so that's really great. I had a really good discussion with some high school educators the other day as well, because they were kind of like, oh, I'd like in terms of modules, it's a bit like class notebook sections or channels. Like, do I do them via unit? Do I do them via week? Do I do them by, what do you call it? Unit, week, what's the other one? Term, etc. So, you know, they were sort of talking about setting up a week 1 assignment and then having all the lessons for week 1 attached in the assignment. So there's lots of different workarounds that you can start to have a play with, but just the opportunity to reuse these means it is pretty easy if you wanted to do like a unit like this and have a sequence here and then reuse them. It's quite possible to do that. So let's have a quick look at that. You'll notice that this is my year 4 team, and I have got a unit module for write your own poem. I've got a poetry one as well and a narrative writing. So you can see here I've got similar work in there. I've got similar elements in here that I have made up. So this is the best thing about Classwork is here's my new team for 2024. In the past, it's been hard to kind of get all the files. The class notebook feature has been there. And we've talked about workarounds like making a master team so that you can create all your assignments and then you can always create them from existing assignments. But check this out. Go into Classwork, go into add module, go into reuse, find my year 4 team from last year. If I can do alphabetical order. Here it is. Go next. I can either just bring across one, okay, or I can bring across all the modules. And what that is actually going to do is quite complicated, but it is going to, let's do all modules and see what happens. Oh my gosh, this is going to blow your mind. Oh, I haven't set up my class notebook in here, so I'm going to set up my class notebook. So it's like a wizard, you know, it's going to be kind to you and go, if I wasn't adding this content, it would pull that across. So let's not add content and we'll just create that. And it's going to get my class notebook ready. So it's going to be like a wizard if you haven't set something up to be able to bring this up. But what that Classwork reuse module is going to do is it's going to copy those OneNote sections into my new class notebook. It's going to copy the assignments into assignments. It's going to copy the channels across. It's not going to copy the content in the channels across. And that's a no-brainer, right? Because if we copy the content in the channels across, we get all the student responses and stuff. And it was just a bit full on to have to do that. So let me try again. I'm going to go add module, reuse existing. And I'm going to click this one here. And I'm so brave, Andrew, doing this live. I'm going to reuse.
It's authentic.
Okay, channels and class notebook resources. Okay, so that is, I was told that was going to be there. So
it is.
Yes.
It's still, I'd say they're still tweaking the stages because it rolls out in stages.
Yeah, so it rolls out in stages. So the class notebook content, but it's going to copy those 2 modules across. And I will have done my class notebook when I did my setup anyway, which brings that across. And then I will have access to all of this. So you can see I've got my file, I've got my elements of poetry check-in, I've got my web link, and I've got my poem. So these, as you can see too, are actually set as drafts. So if I go into assignments and I go into drafts, obviously that's a no-brainer as well because I need to change the due dates, okay? So I can go in here and I can change the due dates and I can assign that. And obviously my modules have come across as drafts as well because I need to actually publish those when I am ready to push those out. So you can see that that one's in draft there. When I've gone through and checked it all, I can publish that. Now, just to show you really quickly, this file in the general channel, if I go into files, or is it just going back end? Just goes in the back. So there's a folder in the site contents called Classwork, and that will be copied into the back end of Teams. So if you wanted to find it, just to know, you'd open your SharePoint and it's going to go in there. But basically, the students will be able to access it from here anyway, and that's going to open that up and be perfectly accessible for your students from the Classwork module. So pretty fantastic. Great that it copies all of this across for you, and then you can tweak it before you actually publish it out for you. But a massive, massive kind of gap that has now been filled by the Classwork feature. So I am going to pause there, and I will just let you know that if you are after more information in regards to using Teams and using the Classwork feature, I have got two links here for you. And I will copy those and put them into the chat. So there's the Teams for Education Hub that lives on MS Learn. And there is also our education support learning site, which is fantastic with all the education features of Teams highlighted as well. And if you are keen to redeem your code on MS Learn, I am going to pop that link in for you in a second as well. So there's those two. And if you've got any questions, comments about Classwork, please feel free to pop those in the chat right now and I can answer those. But Andrew, what are you loving about Classwork at the moment?
It's just it does fill a gap that we didn't have in terms of modulating the work that you make. But I think that, you know, when I used to set up my assignments, all the resources, I'd have to kind of put them in folders and name the folders as if they were modules, if that makes sense. So it adds that extra layer now of context and clarity for the kids. And it's more user friendly than them digging around in the, you know, the class materials folder on SharePoint. This is prior to the homepage, by the way, because the homepage and Classwork came at the same time. I think it's great. I honestly think it's great. And there's a lot of improvements coming to Classwork.
Yes.
It's like, imagine this is like phase, I think we're up to phase 2 out of 5.
Yes.
Of what they're doing with these, which is cool. Phase 3 will be the generative AI.
I thought it was already there, but it hasn't it's not pulling the OneNote and the channels across, but I believe that is definitely on the roadmap for it to do that.
It'll be a similar situation where it will do it in draft, and it wants you to confirm that,
yes,
you know, this is what you actually want to attach. But yeah.
Yeah, cool. So that was probably the driest session of the day, but still super, super important.
That's good. I think Classwork needs a lot of love.
Yeah, it does need a lot of love, but it's just kind of like I said, it's not hard to use it. It's just knowing how to build all the elements kind of in Teams. So if you haven't used Teams before, Classwork is probably going to sort of be the glue that binds it all together for you, but you've got to learn how to use all those other elements as well. But I wanted to show, you know, how to make all of those different things, because you might just start out being module and having a whole heap of Word documents or PowerPoint documents or something in there, but you can make it a lot more interactive and exciting than that if you'd like to. So if you do want to redeem for organized content, create assignments and assess learners' understanding in Teams, then that's the code there, or I have put the link in the published chat so that you can click that and it will take you straight to where you can redeem that on MS Learn. But